Welcome to the Why Not podcast with me, Chrissy Hawkins. In a world where everybody always asks why, I'm here to ask, why not? I'll be breaking down the mindsets of guests as well as my own in a bid to find out what makes people say, why not? Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, whatever time of the day or night it is that you are listening to the podcast. Hello, it's me again. Obviously it's me, it's my podcast. Little bonus episode today. It kind of talks about where I am, who I am, where did I come from, all those kind of things. I talk about how I really got into the gym, how I found my way into personal training, and also I have a little bit of a rant about taking responsibility at the end. So sorry about that, but sure, look, had to say it, had to get off my chest. So I hope you enjoy this, and if you do, give me a little shout on Instagram or like a review it. The podcast is now available on Apple Podcasts as well as Spotify and all good podcast hosting sites. That's it. Anyway, as I like to do with my new tagline, so sit down and relax and enjoy, or walk and listen, whatever way you want to do it. I hope you enjoy, and thank you again for listening. Okay, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, good night. I don't know where or when you are listening to this, but here is a little podcast all about me. I'm so vain. No, basically, I just thought it might be a good idea. We've been doing several episodes. I know we did the Q&A style before, but I think I thought it was about time that we did a little bit of background on Chrissy. This will go out as a bonus episode for you guys to decide whether or not you listen to. I'm trying to put out a lot of content right now, and I think it will be good for you to know a bit more about me. So, who am I? What do I do? What do I am? What do I am? That's not English, Chrissy. But okay, so I am Chrissy. I am 29, clinging on to that for those last few months, and I am from Dublin, Ireland. I am a personal trainer, as you all probably know by now. If you are new to the podcast, this is what I do. I think today I just want to dive deep in how I came to be in this type of profession, and I kind of fell into it in a sense. Not fell into it, but I'd say I'm going to go deep into my background and my life and all of that. Dun dun dun. It's really weird to be doing this because I don't talk about myself very often. I don't like talking about myself, but I think, is that a very Irish thing? I think it is. People be like, how are you? And you're like, oh, grand, dying on the inside, but I don't want you to ask me more questions, so that's it. Or you ask someone who they are or what they do, and they give you the very brief synopsis. We don't like taking compliments either. I think it's another thing. Anyway, I digress, as I do. So I think if I look into it realistically, the reason I got into the gym and training when I was younger was, now I'll say it's because my boyfriend got me into it, but really deep down, I think it was a form of protection. So growing up, I was always quite a tomboy. I loved climbing trees and playing football and all that stuff. But when we got to secondary school age, I was about a year older than most of my friends, they all turned on me, which was very difficult to take because I didn't have a lot of friends in school and primary school anyway. I was kind of the weird one, I suppose. That one class, I think we all had one. If you didn't, it was probably you. Now, primary school wasn't that bad, to be fair. I just didn't have many friends in primary school, and people weren't, I actually have to say, people weren't bad to me in primary school. I just don't think they liked me. Or maybe they did and they didn't care, or they were indifferent. But everyone seemed to have kind of friend groups that I was not part of. And that's kind of hard when you're growing up because you don't know why you're different, and it's not great for your confidence because it's weird when people don't like you. Anyway, that was a big thing growing up in primary school. I look back on it now and I think it is why I've struggled a lot to get to know people over the years, or even like try and become friends with people. And anyway, as I said, I don't think it was particularly, I don't feel like I was bullied in primary school. I just don't think people liked me. Like my friend, I had one good friend in primary school, we're still friends now. And he went off to a different secondary school, but he was bullied. He had some pricks in his ear. He was full on bullied. But I don't really feel like I was. I just don't think I was liked, basically. I wasn't part of any of the groups. I was kind of that side one who's always quiet and kind of involved, but not really. And even then, the only reason I might have been involved in some of the talk and stuff in classes because we were, say, alphabetically ordered, and I ended up sitting beside people or in between people. Now, this definitely changed after secondary school because the lads I was friends with, they all went into the same secondary school as me the year after, but they became friends with what I can only describe as the biggest arseholes I've ever met in my life. They are literally like, there's not many people I really hate, but these are, they're probably up there. And anyway, when they became friends with them, to be like these guys, they all just started bullying me, and they literally made my life hell. Like trying to walk past the green I used to go on, they'd all yell man at me, or if they saw me like that, or like I've even years later, I've walked past and tried to fire a ball at me. I'm just like, lad, seriously. Now, thankfully, I haven't seen them in the guts of 8 years, so I don't have to worry about it. But like, even into our late teens, there'd be shit like that, and you're like, oh, come on. So anyway, it got to the point that I really couldn't handle it. And also in secondary school, I didn't have a lot of friends either. So it's not like could go. I sometimes came up to school on my own, or I went my own way kind of thing. So like, I was kind of an easy target. And anyway, I end up obviously telling a teacher because this was just getting like, it was just like horrible, just constantly like being yelled at. And anyway, of course, then they were mad that they got in trouble, but it stopped them to the most point. Like in school, it didn't go on anymore. But as I said, if I would walk past the green and they'd be like, man, whatever, and it was just like, when you're walking somewhere, right, and you see someone you don't like or someone who does stuff to you, and you literally freeze up. Like you are literally like, that pit in your stomach. And it's awful. Like, and it's like, where I live is not a big place, so very easy to run into them. So it was just like awful, like especially if you where they live, walking past, like you'd tense up, and like all you could do was just ignore them and walk past, because I tried responding and it just fueled their assholeness. Anyway, so I think as well, coupled with the fact that I still didn't have many friends in secondary school, I did end up finding a kind of group of us. We were like all the outcasts used to hang out, like, in my mid-teens or in my teens, I got into the whole rocker scene, and I was like a nice emo kid growing up. And just for the record, I still love all that music and I listen to it regularly. I still don't know my hair wear colours. Most people know my hair is pink at the moment. But, I kind of found my vibe in the sense, like, I was in, I was hated everything and I hated life. And like, I swear to God that like that music was amazing for teen angst. And anyway, I was never one of the popular kids. So it was a nice little group to fall into. We all hated everyone and we weren't part of it. And no, to be fair, we didn't hate anyone. And again, as I said, in secondary school, the people in my year who would have been in my school in primary school, and then obviously we had a few new people, again, they were fine. There was never any problem with these people. I was just not part of the group. I just didn't fit with them. And that was like, that's okay. And like, there was 3 people from my year that were part of this group of rocker kids that I did fit in with. And again, I never actually hold a grudge of anyone from my year. It just was the way it was. Like, they weren't bad people. They weren't bad to me. In fact, people in my year, and that includes people who came to our school in secondary school, so we had a very big year in secondary school, we're all like, for the most part, really nice people. A lot of different groups got on and intermingled after fourth year, and somehow, again, I didn't fall into that, even though I got involved in stuff. But, you know, look, this is what happens. I don't hold a grudge against anyone from my year. I've absolutely no problem with them. And I just wanted to be known as them. The guys below me who were pricks, now they were awful. So yeah, secondary school in general was a tough time for me. And funnily enough, while I was in fourth year, I got to know a lot of people from the same year in Malahide. And I actually really wanted to move to that school because I had friends there that I got on with. And my mom just kind of was like, oh, you'd be grand. I had problems in school too. Just you have 2 more years, get on with it. The Malahide school, sorry. The other school wasn't that far. Like, it wasn't like I was making a big sacrifice to change. It kind of frustrated me that she wouldn't let me, and apparently she never told my dad that either, because he would have actually let me move and helped me move. And that is something that frustrates me, because I'd spent 2 more years in the school that I didn't get on well with. Maybe if I had more friends or enjoyed it more, I would have done better in school, in the sense that, like, I would have put more effort. I would have, like, enjoyed going in. I would have maybe not mitched off as much. So as mom, I did mitch off a lot more in sixth year. But that said, like, I've gone on pretty fine with my school and education. But yeah, that one's kind of took a while to get over, and it was annoying. But, like, at the end of the day, I can't change it now, so there's no point dwelling on it and being like, whoa, they could have let me do that. And I'm actually still friends with the people I made friends with from that school, which also, if I was to hold a grudge, would really annoy me, because I'm like, see, I made friends with these people. We're still friends 10 years later. I don't speak to anyone from school except Yvonne, and we became friends after school. So this is, I think, an underlying reason as to why I got really into muscle building in the gym. Now, I've never been a bodybuilder, I've never been a bikini athlete, but I really like building strength. And I am quite strong. I'm small, but I'm strong. And when I started training, I did have that little bit of, ooh, I don't want to get bulky. I did do too much cardio. But I was always in the weight section doing stuff. And I really got into building strength. And I was, doing base stuff for a long time, but I really did enjoy that. And I think really that stems from underlying, if I get big and strong, it'll protect me. I won't get big, I'm tiny, I'm 5'2". But I feel like if I was getting stronger and more muscular, it would basically protect me from these people who've been horrible to me over the years. So it became a thing of protection, in a sense. I wouldn't have admitted it at the time, but I think now, looking back on it, that's originally how I got into it. Now, when I started training in the gym, it was still a thing where girls didn't go near the weights. So not only was I coming in and lifting weights, I was walking in as the only girl in the boys section of the gym, the weight section. And it's like, to be honest, it probably would have fed into that man mentality that they were giving me. But in a sense, they were giving me, but them calling me that. But that didn't matter to me. I suppose at this stage they weren't in my life anymore. I was out of school. I kind of only got into the gym a little bit towards the end of school, and really got into weight training in college. I think. I'm trying to think back now. It's been a long time. I left school. 11 years ago, nearly 12 years ago. Eep. Oh, nearly 12 years ago, yeah. 2009 did my leaving cert. But anyway, as I said, I digress. I think, as I said, so I was getting stronger. I was going to protect myself by being stronger and more muscular. And even if I didn't feel mentally strong, I was physically strong. So I think that is really where it stemmed from. And it was a journey. I've had ups and downs. I've gone on, like, gone to heavy strength, to working back on machines, to doing too much cardio, to running, to not running, to weight training again. And I really, really started to feel like this was something I was really interested in. And I loved learning about it. And obviously my programs are always quite basic, because before I became a trainer, I didn't really know much about it. And I wanted to learn more. And I actually really liked teaching people. I found, like, I used to train my sister and I knew a bit more than her, that kind of thing. And I enjoyed this, and I enjoyed explaining and learning from classes why you do stuff, and asking trainers after classes why you do certain things. So I was like, maybe this could be a career option. Maybe being a PT would be something I could do. And I went into it, and I remember going to the course and I loved it. Like, oh my God, learning training styles, all that kind of stuff. I was like, I am in the place. Even though I died through some classes, like some of the things I'm qualified in, like step aerobics, like I've never wanted to do it, but I'm glad I did it and learned it, and no, I don't want to do it. Exercise to music, absolutely hated it. I am so uncoordinated. If I could have 3 left feet, I would. But again, I'm glad it was something I did and I learned about. And then also, obviously, the weight element was obviously up for me, and all the sporting elements and stuff like that. I thought that was really, really interesting. And even like putting putting programs together and stuff like that, I was like, this is me. This is like my vibe. And I was like, I know I'm in the right place. At the time, I was working in a jeweler's, and I was working in retail, and it was a job, and I hated it. I hated it a bit. But again, that was my fault. Not my fault, but you know. And I was like, yeah, this is what I want to do. So when I got qualified, I actually took a job doing hours in a gym, a big commercial gym. Most of us will know it. And that's where I started. So really big gym, and I started doing hours there. So I used to work 9 to 5 in the job, and like in my jeweler job, and then I'd go home, get changed, and fly straight up to the gym, because I used to live right beside the where I worked. And I'd fly up to the gym, and I'd be up there for 6 to 9 to do shifts in the evening. And I did that for several months. And it was just great. I started teaching classes. I started like being in the gym environment all the time. And like I was like, yeah, this is it. Like, this is what I'm supposed to do. And it's really funny because of the way I'd grown up and never really having confidence in myself. I used to be terrified at speaking in front of people. Like, I mean, I used to do presentations when in college. I kind of skipped over college along the way there, because before I went to PT college, I went to real air quotes college. And I did communication studies, incidentally, with a specialization in audio recording, which I thought was a waste of time up until this year. And I had friends there, to be fair. And the reason I had friends there, I think, is because the course I picked is hilarious. For someone who didn't speak to everyone, right? Who didn't speak to anyone, who wouldn't say boo to a sheep. I don't know. What's a boo to? Anyway, for someone who wouldn't talk to anyone, I ended up in a course which was full of extroverts. Like, everyone thought because they were doing media studies, they were going to be like, the way I describe these people is they were all, I'm going to be famous. I don't know how, but it's going to happen. And that is the type of people I had in my course. And it was mad for someone like me who was like, ah! And yeah, there was some absolute devastation because you could specialize in audio, photography, or video. And I remember when they did the presentation at the end of first year where you decide what you're going to specialize in. And I went in there saying, I want to do radio. It's all I want to do. The faces of so many people when they realize when you're doing video production, you're not doing acting to the most part. Like, there might be a little bit of acting involved, but they kind of thought they were going to do video to be in front of the camera when they realized they actually weren't. So I remember that reaction well of so many of these extroverted people being like, what? I'm going to be behind it? And that was quite amusing for me. So I had a couple of friends that I made in college. I'm still friends with these guys to this day as well. And the reason we were all friends is because we were all introverted, basically. We were not the out there type people in our course. And that's how we became friends, I think, to be honest. Like, it was just not our vibe, and we kind of like, shit, what are we doing here? And anyway, side note, none of us are working in the media now. I wonder if that's the reason. But anytime I had to do a college presentation, just stand up in front of the class, there would be about 20 people in the class because they were the big group broken down. And I mean, I would shake, I would cough, I would be dry, I would be terrified, I would stumble over my words that were written in front of me. Like, I was so nervous in front of people. I was okay 1-to-1, but in front of people, not a good thing. And anyway, when I started working at this gym, I started in January, and it was a big gym. You're talking minimum 20 people in a class. And I was like, starting out, fresh out of my qualification, starting to take classes, and I was like, oh my god, this is the most terrifying thing I've ever done in my life. I don't like talking to 3 people, let alone 20. And I had no choice. I had to get up and learn, and I did. And now it really stood to me. I think starting in a big environment like that actually really helps now when I work in a smaller 1-to-1 base with people, because when you've taught a class with 30 people looking at you, and then you have classes that are no more than 10 to 15, 20 maybe, like, it's nothing. Like, the gym I moved to next was actually a lot smaller, and I remember the spin studio where we were was like 29 bikes, and I went down to like 16, and you're actually teaching in the gym, so like people are working out behind you. And actually, like, that didn't even faze me, because I've been in these big massive classes, and where you did the classes in the old gym as well was in the middle of the gym, so you had to be loud, you had to be motivational and all this stuff. And I found coming into scenarios where I'm with new groups, and it's a lot easier to project that, because it's easier to do that to a smaller group than a big massive one. And it's crazy the turnaround and the confidence shift it gave me by becoming that person. And like, if you'd have told 15-year-old me that I was going to be in charge of classes with multiple people and telling them what to do and just being like, yep, yeah, you do that, I would have been like, what? No, I don't talk to people. Get out. So, yeah, it's just crazy how it can change. Now, I also love it, and it's just, as I said, I'm in the place I want to be. So I think that helps when you have a passion for it. It really changes things. And I don't know, like, I'm one for always stretching my comfort zone or trying. No, I'm not one for it, to be honest. I fell into a pattern of comfort with it for a while there over a couple of years, and I kind of, my standards slipped, and I fell back into old routines in a sense that what I was doing was easy, so it wasn't hard anymore. So, like, it was a massive step for me and my confidence by putting myself out there as someone who never liked being out there. And then you get to know everyone, especially in the smaller gyms, you get to know them, you get kind of, in a sense, complacent, and you just go through the motions, which, like, I found the next two gyms kind of happened because you weren't ever doing anything that was going to progress people. You were just like, okay, they want to make life difficult, they want it to be hard, let's do that. Which, like, it's kind of smaller commercial gyms. It's why people don't really make changes. They don't. They come to the class all the time and still can't figure out why things aren't changing, but they're not following any plan. They're just going to get hammered every day. I mean, by exercise, not by alcohol, but they might be doing that after. I don't know. Whatever they do after is not my problem. So that kind of falls into a stagnation. You stop learning. You don't really do, like, you don't get a lot of PT or, you know, working one-to-one people, which makes it a very difficult to grow. And that's also part of the reason I ended up moving into a semi-private gym. And the class structure there is obviously much better because we have a program that you follow for a month there, and we try to, you know, get people to progress during it if you are doing the class structures. And then there's also PD, which is all your personalized, all that added extra that you look for. And it's really funny because it almost felt like starting again when I went back to this place, and it was like, no problem with the directing the classes and helping stuff like that, but I'd gotten into such bad habits from stagnation in the last gym, that last two gyms, that, like, I really, really needed to work hard to get back up to the standard that I had been when I started. Not that I had to work hard, but, like, it's like I forgot that I could do it, and it's like almost becoming a beginner again. Because my mind had just gone, I hadn't thought about stuff for so long, I began to overthink stuff. And instead of, like, I'm always willing to learn. I always, like, ask questions. I'm happy for feedback. Like, I don't care if I get feedback. I would rather have the feedback and know where I can improve than get no feedback and pretend I'm okay. So I'm always willing to learn in that sense. But it's like a blanked bum. It was really weird, and I was like, "Gee, the pandemic, that doesn't help either." And then my dad got sick and everything. Ugh. But I have a sometimes case of try to run before I can walk, and I've really had to try and bring myself back over the last months, last few months, and kind of be ready to be the beginner again, and just be like, yeah, you know a certain amount, but you can always learn. So don't be afraid. And just go back to basics if needs be. If you have to, do the basics. The basics work. If you have not mastered the basics, do not try and go one step further. Stop overthinking it, because you do tend to know more than the people you were training, even if they've been training for a long time. And that's something I've had to drill into myself again. When I'm trying to write programs, instead of overthinking it, just be like, you can do it. You know how to do it. Stop being an idiot. And here we are here today. Well, I may have skipped over a bit. No, I'm kind of here today. In the meantime, I've been building up my confidence and getting out on social media, because something else I hated. I don't like being in front of things. This microphone is great because I can't see it, but I'm talking to you. And yeah, it's a funny old time, as they say. And I keep hearing people saying I'm sick of it now. And honestly, I don't care. It doesn't bother me. I suppose I'm lucky in a sense that the employment kind of thing is enough for me to get by. I'm trying to do a little bit extra here and there. And honestly, it's giving me time to make myself do stuff that I've been avoiding for fear of it not going well. And I'm okay with that. And I'm okay with knowing that. And instead of avoiding it now, I'm trying to do it because that is what I do. I avoid things that are scary. That is what we all do. And I've pushed my comfort zone by becoming a PT. I pushed my comfort zone by walking into the gym as the only girl in the weight section. And I was proud of that and I loved that. And it was more supposed to be about that story, and I kind of went off on a tangent about my whole life, so sorry if I bored you, but this is me. And I'm proud that I became a PT or a coach, and I know I'm in the right walk of life. My ladder's up against the right wall, as you say. I'm working where I should do. And now I need to build my confidence in getting out and pushing my comfort zone and talking about who I am. Because I talk about all these concepts and about this is what you do and this is how you do it. But I'm always scared to say what I'm like because, or who I am, or share who I am, because this will go back to why I started in the gym, but because who I was when I was younger felt like it wasn't good enough. So people don't need to know who I am now. But really, if you don't like who I am now, that isn't my problem. Like, I have a very loving boyfriend, I have a very loving family, I have 2 piggies and a pony who love being fed. I'm going to take it as a show of love. And I have friends I'm close to as well, and they support me. And yeah, like, at the end of the day, I don't want everyone to love me. So I'm just going to start being me a bit more on this podcast and tell you more about me and my backstory and where I came from. And this is something that's very difficult to me. I'm not ashamed of who I am or who I came from, but I'm not an emotional person. Not that I'm going to get emotional. I don't think I will anyway. But I've always been like that. I'm quite locked down. I probably stems back from growing up. I was never very, well, I used to get angry. Do you ever anger cry? That is so frustrating because you're like, I'm making a point. I'm not upset. You're just listening to me. Yeah, I'm one of those. Not anymore, I think, because I've become less reactive in the last few years. But I think it's time to let people know who I am. And if you like it, fair enough. And if you don't, fair enough. But I'm just going to keep being me. I'm going to do me. You do you. If you want to come along for the ride, you come along. You're welcome. I truly believe, and I've kind of skirted around saying this, but I feel like it doesn't make me as genuine. I truly believe you need to take responsibility for yourself, for your actions, and stop blaming others. Not you personally, but in general. I have started to do that. I have started to do it for a long time now, but I still wasn't necessarily taking responsibility. Well, I was. Like, I know the reason I may not be gaining traction that I want is because I'm holding back. But instead of doing it, my fear of putting myself out there was overriding that. So, anyway, look, that's not a lecture, but do remember, most of the time, it is not someone else's fault. It's very rare that it's someone else's fault. And we don't like taking responsibility. We make excuses for everything. Now the coronavirus is the biggest excuse, and everyone's like, just mind yourself. And it frustrates me because I'm not like that. I'm like, you mind yourself, fine, but just stay miserable then. You're going to stay miserable. Unfortunately, that's what's going to be. And I know people are going to be like, I can't control this, blah, 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 blah. And you're like, no, you can't control the pandemic, but you can control your reactions to it. Okay? And how I reacted to it, and I'm not saying you have to do this, but it's how I reacted to it was trying to build on stuff that I have been putting over. So I've tried like making sure I get consistent content. I make sure I train consistently. I make sure the podcast goes out every week. All this stuff that I know I can control and makes me feel better because I've taken control of them. I've started reading more, stuff like that. This is how I've handled it. I can't control the virus. I can't control the lockdown, but I can control what I do, and I can control how I react. And I'm not saying you have to do 10 million things a day. I'm saying take control, build it up, and you will feel better instead of hiding behind the pandemic as an excuse. That is a little mini rant. I'm sorry, it's been annoying me for so long, and I'm not saying you have to get fit or get a PhD or do anything, but just do some little things that you can control every day, and believe me, it'll make things so much easier for yourself. Not so much easier, but like you will feel better. Like those little wins are really important, I think. And that is why I train 5 days a week. I run, I show up to post content, I write stuff regularly, even though I don't know if people are going to read it. I did an Instagram live today, no one showed up, but I kept going because what else? What, am I going to just turn it off and sulk? No. All I can control is my reaction. And I'm going to keep doing that. And hopefully this will inspire you to keep doing it as well, because we so often start things and like once we have a day that we don't want to do it, we give up. And there's been days where I don't want to do it. There's many days I don't want to do this stuff. But I just fucking, as you say, put your big girl pants on and go out and do it. And some days, by the way, like I don't do everything in sequence the way I've written it down. Sometimes I feel tired and I move something forward, or I move something back, or I do something, change it around. But I have core things that I do every day, and I get them done because they are staples of my day that need to be done. And I will feel better for getting them done than beating myself up over missing it. And that's what we do. We start something, it gets tough, we give up, we give out about ourselves, and we stop. And we feel worse, and it's a vicious cycle. So instead of doing that, take control on the days you don't want to do it. Pull up your big girl or big boy pants and do it anyway. And the more you do it, the easier it becomes. And then you feel better about yourself. And the more this compounds over time, the more you feel better about yourself. Just like the more you don't do it, it compounds over time and the worse you feel. And with that rant, I think I'm going to leave you. I do apologise. I got very into that, but at the end of the day, it's how I've been feeling, and I feel like it's time to say it. And if you don't like it, that's fine. And if you do like it, fabulous. You will find me on Instagram at Chrissy H Fitness, and you will find me on TikTok. I have rebranded it as Chrissy H Fitness because it seemed silly that I'd gotten rid of the NES. So Chrissy H Fitness on my socials, that is where you'll find me. I'm not as ranty on TikTok. You might see a bit more ranting on Instagram in the next while, but as ever, thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed this, and sorry if I made you feel uncomfortable. It's good, but it's good for you. Thank you again for listening to Why Not. Please hit that subscribe button or leave a review. And if you have any suggestions or feedback, feel free to hit me up on social media.